Welcome to Noob-Splaining. My name is Wolf. If this is your first time here, then this is where I explain the crazy, over-the-top world of Warhammer 40,000 that nerds like me love so much. So, settle in, grab a drink, and prepare for a Noob-Splaining session. Welcome to this video. I'm going to start this off with a shameless plug. So, first of all, if you want a shout out, hit me up on the email address in the description of the video. Secondly, I do still have those active links for Baron of Dice if you want some cool 40k themed dice, and also the links for Element Games if you want to get some money off your Warhammer products. Also, you can buy me a coffee as well. Not that you have to, but it is appreciated. Now, there's probably quite a few of you wondering why I constantly call the God Emperor of Mankind Emperor Chris, when no other YouTubers seem to know his name. Well, the reason for this is also this week's shout-out, which is Megadoom101, who is an absolute legend. Let me tell you why. So quite some time ago, I put out a community post asking people what they think the Emperor's real name is, and he replied with this legendary comment. Now, ever since that day, I've always referred to the leader of mankind as Emperor Chris, and so do several of my friends now. So I want everyone else to join in and put in the comments, "In Emperor Chris we trust." Now, lock up your toasters, as this week we're taking a look at the Adeptus Mechanicus of Mars, aka the Glorious Cogboys. As always, the format of these videos is a brief look at the lore, what's in the combat patrol box, how to use it, and what to buy next. So the tech priests of the Adeptus Mechanicus of Mars, often shortened to just the AdMech, are often memed on as toaster fuckers, but I find this to be totally crass, disgusting, and extremely childish. So I promise I won't be making any more than a maximum of 6 toaster fucking jokes. Now, the AdMech are kind of the Stark Industries of the Imperium, in the fact that they build all the guns, weapons and ships that literally everyone in the Imperium uses. Well, almost everyone. They rule over the many forge worlds scattered throughout the Imperium, from Mars, which, as the name implies, is their homeworld. When Emperor Chris made a deal with them to bring them into the Imperium, they agreed to make all the gear he needed for his armies. In return, they get to keep their religious beliefs of the Omnissiah and the Machine Spirits. In fact, the AdMech don't worship Emperor Chris as a god like the rest of the Imperium. Instead, they believe he is the living embodiment of the Omnissiah himself. Now, each of the members of the AdMech extend their lives by replacing many body parts with cybernetics. In fairness, they have to, as large portions of Mars have high levels of radiation that would be lethal to non-humans, and the average forge world's atmosphere is 50% carcinogenic, 50% exhaust fumes, and 100% lethal. Considering they build everything, except what the custodians use, because those arrogant bastards make their own gear. But considering they build everything, you would think the AdMech have quite a powerful army with excellent armour. But no, they walk the fine line between a quantity and quality army. But then why send in troops that could be killed to deal with a problem when you can throw robots, cyborgs, and a 100-foot-tall walking cathedral at it, with more firepower than the fucking Death Star? Of course, all this means you can just get home quicker to your loving KitchenAid 4-slice toaster with manual high-lift lever, currently available on Amazon for only $70 US. The other thing the AdMech negotiated in their deal with Emperor Chris was to get unlimited access to any new technologies found or old ones rediscovered, especially the STC or Standard Construct Template databases or any parts of it that can be recovered. See, Emperor Chris knew he had to get the galaxy conquered quickly, so he delegated tasks out, and the AdMech got the job of being the industrial military complex, while the human population were the grunts doing all the conquering. The only real reason the AdMech would go to war is either defend a forge world or to retrieve long-lost tech. Anything else sticks its head up, that's what the Imperial Guard is for. But the fact that you go to retrieve long-lost tech is somewhat fucking ironic, as any members of the AdMech who try to do something called innovate is likely to get shot for heresy, unless of course you're near the top of the command chain, in which case it's perfectly acceptable for someone like Belisarius Call, the leader of the AdMech, to invent a better space marine, bolter, power armour, tanks, APCs, and the list goes on. But this was mainly down to the fact that Games Workshop just wanted to sell more Space Marines to Space Marine players. This fear of innovation that the AdMech have actually comes from the AI uprising before the collapse of mankind. So all AI systems are now bad. Instead, inside everything, literally every piece of armour, gun, ship, tank, has something called a machine spirit. That is basically a neutered AI that is limited in what it can do, but it still gets stroppy from time to time and has to be anointed in sacred oils and incense smoke, or it might just not fucking work. Bolters that have not been anointed in a long time have been known to become prone to malfunctions, and even the rounds have been known to fail to detonate. So next time you're putting anything other than bread in your Breville die-cast 4-slice long slot smart toaster, make sure you have incense and oils for its after-action massage. Now, this whole fear of AI developed into rituals to appease the machine spirits that have then evolved into, well, this is how we have done it for the last 10,000 years, and so we're going to keep doing it that way. The real reason it takes decades to build a new Titan is not because of all the resources it takes, it's down to the fact it takes 3 tech priests to spend 4 hours in a ritual blessing of a fuse with oils and incense before the robot is allowed to fucking solder it to the circuit board. And then once it's built, it needs dunking in Nuln Oil anyway. If you're thinking the Forge Wheels are giant factories with stuff constantly rolling off a production line, nope. Even the Video Games Workshop put out that shows the Space Marine putting on his armour involves oils and incense, and frankly he should have been suited up in 30 seconds, given his bolter and told to get his arse in the drop pod as the rest of his squad are waiting on him. In short, they don't do innovation, can't change a light bulb in anything less than 2 hours, use more incense in an hour than the Catholic Church does all year, and relax by sticking their interface appendages into Panasonic Flash Express toaster ovens. Do you think when they graduate from Admech University, instead of a mortarboard and letters after their name, they're given a Black & Decker Rapid Toast 2-slice toaster? Black & Decker are most well known in the UK for making power tools, but then to the Admech, I suppose an 8-slice toaster would power a lot of their tools.
Hey fellow tech priest, how are you? Just oiled my toaster. Now it cooks all the bread. Ooh. You got any pictures?
Okay, this is getting weird. Let's look at what's in the box. So, in the box, you get 1 Tech Priest Manipulus, 3 Cerberus Sulphur Hounds, 5 Taraxi Sterilizers, and 10 Skitari Vanguard. So let's start with the Tech Priest. He is equipped as standard with a Magna Rail Lance that has a very healthy strength 7, but only 1 attack, but a range of 36 inches. It does have -2 to armor save and 3 to damage. This can be swapped to a transonic cannon, which has a measly 12-inch range, but an OK D6 attacks, strength 4 and 2 damage. This weapon also has the devastating wounds keyword, meaning that if you roll a 6 to wound, it ignores armor saves. For melee, it has the Omniscience Staff, which has 4 attacks at strength 6, -1 to save and 2 to damage. So again, like most 40k characters, it is better in melee combat, but way better at range than most other army leaders we have looked at. With it only having a toughness of 4 and 4 wounds, it's probably going to get its toaster port kicked in if it gets engaged in melee. I'm pretty sure that model also comes with a toaster. Next we have the Cerberus Sulphur Hounds. Each of the riders is dual-wielding pistols, which is a pretty cool image, but in reality they don't do much damage. What this unit is meant for is charging into light infantry, and with greater numbers can probably handle heavy infantry too. They do have the line breaker skill, which means when they charge they have a chance to cause damage to the enemy before combat even starts. Moving on to the Taraxi Sterilizers. So these guys can deep strike, meaning you can actually set them up after the game's begun, pretty much anywhere on the table, and have a massive 12-inch move, which they need that as their weapons only have a 12-inch range, because again they have pistols. These pistols however have a massive 5 attacks each, but only at strength 3, so are really great at mowing down light infantry. The unit leader has a phosphor torch, which is for all intents and purposes a flamer, but it does have a chance to set an enemy unit on fire. Oh good, extra damage I hear you say. Nope, not at all. Units on fire get slowed down by 2 inches. That's it. If you're on fire and the only thing that it causes you to do is walk a little bit slower, I don't think being on fire is a major problem. And finally, the Skitari Vanguard. They got the name Vanguard because they should have been left back at the base to guard the van. They are armed with a radium carbine, which are actually deceptively powerful. They have 3 attacks, but each of the rest of the stat line is identical to that of a lasgun. Then you notice it has the keyword Anti-Infantry 4+, so you have a 50% chance of hitting infantry and then a 50% chance of wounding them, regardless what the toughness is, including Terminators. So on average, that's going to be 7 to 8 hits per turn that your opponent needs to roll saves on. You can also upgrade 3 of them with some support weapons, which is basically 2 anti-character weapons and an anti-vehicle weapon, but nothing else to shout about. Overall, the stats on each of the units are not that impressive, but the interesting thing is that every unit has an invulnerable save. Admittedly, the Skitari is only a 6+, but all the rest get a 5+, but it's better than nothing. This is an army that wins by capturing and holding objectives. It has the potential to do some serious damage to quantity armies, but it's going to struggle against a quality army. But you get the Skitari to lay down firepower on infantry units only, with the basic weapons, and choose your targets for the upgraded weapons carefully. The Sulphur Hounds need to be charged into melee combat with weaker units, and the Taraxi are meant to harass and annoy infantry. As for the Tech Priest, use it to shoot the tougher units, and maybe throw it into melee with mostly destroyed infantry units or very light vehicles. Overall, this army has very little in the way of big guns and melee. So, what to add? Well, first of all, that depends on the size of your wallet and how much of a fucking git you want to be. Because for 1100 points, you can add a fucking Warhound Titan, which solves all your lack of big guns problems, but it's also a fucking bullet magnet and is not cheap to buy either. On the other hand, if you want an actual army, I would add a few squads of the Rust Walkers for melee combat, and then a whole selection of the vehicles, including a couple of the Doom Crawlers, a couple of the Scorpius Disintegrators, and a squad or two of the Castellan Robots to soak up some bullets. As the units seem rather weak, I'm tempted to go more towards vehicles for the protection and the extra firepower they bring. Overall, this is a very shooty army, and with having a few high toughness vehicles and units to choose from, it can be a very tough shooty army. But this box set is, as I feel, will struggle against a lot of the other factions box set, and probably not the best way to introduce a new player to this faction. Even with the vehicles and the robots, they are still not the most powerful army on the tabletop, and still will be looking for a technical victory over a board wipe on most occasions, and I can see them being quickly overrun by fast moving armies like Drukhari and Tyranids, but they should put up a good fight against everything else. And there we have it. That brings us to the end of this week's video. If you made it this far, thank you very much, and if you laughed or learned anything, please consider hitting that subscribe and like button. Also, don't forget to share this video with somebody who could do some Noob-Splaining in their life. Please leave a comment. I do try and interact with every comment I get, but most importantly, thank you, and I'll see you next time.